Okay. So, President Donald Trump could very well win re-election in November, but if he does, it's very unlikely he'll win the popular vote. Now, I'm only coming at this from a statistical perspective, and I'm generalizing those statistics. So keep that in mind. This isn't based on policy or really anything the candidate may or may not do. So why do I say that he won't win the popular vote? Well, for one, he didn't win the popular vote the first time around. In 2016, Hillary Clinton received 65,844,610 votes. That was 48.1% of the total votes in the election. Trump, on the other hand, received 62,984,828 votes, coming out to 46.1% of the electorate. So Trump lost the popular vote by 3 million votes, give or take, but still won the presidency because of the Electoral College. Historically speaking, the incumbent has been stronger in their second election. With the exception of Obama, you have to go back to the 1992 election to find an incumbent who did worse in their second election. Of course, that incumbent was George H.W. Bush, who lost to Clinton. But because of the small margin last time, both Trump and the Democrats should look at expanding their base in order to ensure an electoral college win. Look, I know that Trump's my base and that's it strategy won him the White House the first time around, but even if it does win him re-election, it's unlikely any other future Republican can win with that exact strategy going forward, and maybe not even Trump in 2024 or 2028 if he was able to run then. But first, who is Trump's base and what were the numbers of the 2016 election? Trump's base is made up of three main groups, which he wins by huge margins. Whites with no college degree, 64%, evangelicals, 77%, and Republicans, 92%. If you belong to any of these three groups, there is a 78% chance that you voted for Trump in 2016. Trump also has an advantage with older voters, but is not as significant as those in the previous groups mentioned. But you can see that in the electoral breakdown. The biggest thing to note here is that independents, which made up 34% of the 2016 electorate, is nearly an even split between Trump and Clinton. And that's especially important because voters voted with their party. There were very, very few Democrats for Trump and Clinton Republicans. Also, you'll see the racial breakdown here is not favorable for Trump. He loses non-white voters by double digits to Clinton. And you'll see why that's important later. Finally, younger voters are less likely to vote for Trump. That's 2016. But looking ahead to 2020, we can see the electorate is shifting. For one, Gen Z will now have a significant share of voters for the first time, with 1 in 10 being Gen Z. Non-white voters will make up 1/3 of the electorate, and Hispanics will be the largest minority group, with 13% of eligible voters being Hispanic. But what does that mean? Well, people who couldn't vote in the last election that can vote this time around are not what a typical Trump voter looks like. Gen Z is known for their progressive views and their diverse makeup. In 2020, Gen Z eligible voters are expected to be 55% white, 45% non-white, including 21% Hispanic, 14% black, 4% Asian. By comparison, the Boomer and older generation is projected to be 74% white. However, not all is lost for the Republican Party and Trump. Younger voters are not as reliable as older ones, and we'll have to wait and see if they actually show up to the polls. The argument I'm going to make from here on out is that Latino voters is what both Democrats and Republicans should be putting all their effort into getting on their side. Why? Like I said earlier, in the 2020 election, Latinos will make up the largest minority voting group, and that voting bloc is only going to grow in the future. Latinos are the youngest racial demographic in the U.S. More and more of them will be coming of voting age every year. By 2060, they could make up nearly 26% of the U.S. population, double that of the black population. But right now, they are the groups most up for grabs in elections. Latinos have awful voting turnout numbers, even by American standards. Only 47.6% of eligible Latinos actually voted in the 2016 election, significantly behind every other voting demographic in the country. And as you can recall, Democrats had great sound bites to play to get Latinos to go out and vote, and they still didn't. That leaves the door open for Republicans to try to get them on their side. And that's not as crazy as it sounds. Even though the last two elections, Latinos have broken heavily for Democrats, as recently as 2004, they were nearly 50-50 voting group. But it's important for both parties to start prioritizing outreach to Latinos now, as in 2018 midterm elections, Latino turnout was up 147%, and they are a significant population in 5 of the 6 biggest electoral delegate states, including New York, California, Texas, and Florida. 2 of those I just mentioned are Republican states or a swing state. That being said, Republicans definitely have more ground to make up, as in 2016, 54% of Latinos registered to vote say the Democratic Party has more concern for Latinos than the Republican Party, while 11% said the same about the GOP. Democrats have maintained this advantage since 2012, though the share of Latinos who say Democrats have more concern for Latinos has declined modestly since then, when about 61% said this. About 1 in 4 Latinos said there is no difference between the parties in this measure, according to a Pew Research study. Those 1 in 4 Latino voters are the ones that both parties need to convince that they should vote for them. For Republicans, this is especially important, as they already do poorly with blacks. Pew Research Center projects that by 2054, the U.S. will become a minority white country. During this year, whites will comprise 49.7% of the population, in contrast to 24.6% for Hispanics, 13.1% for blacks, 7.9% for Asians, and 3.8% for multiracial populations. One of the reasons Republicans have a chance with Latinos is it is a very diverse group. There are 33 countries in Latin America. Some, like Cuba or Venezuela, have had very bad experiences with communist or socialist governments, making them perfect targets for Republicans. Now, no one can predict what turnout is actually going to be in November, and November is a long way off, especially in politics. However, in my opinion, and solely going off demographics and projected demographic switches, both parties would do well to try and consolidate the Latino voting bloc for now and in the future.